What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another review, and it is this week's Loki finale, episode 6, and what an ending that was. It was an excellent episode. This was the ending I think we all needed. Now, throughout the episode, I was definitely thinking that it needed more punch, but by the end of it, the way everything happens and the way it all ends, it was the episode. It was the perfect episode that you needed. It went in line what the show was trying to do. So before we get into this, just remember spoilers. So we learn that Sylvie and Loki, all this journey that they've been doing so far, all the stuff they've been doing, it was meant to be. It was meant to be up to that point. And from there on, basically, they're both given the choice that they can either take over the duties of He Who Remains. So that guy who's been taking care of the timeline, he's actually, they don't say it, but it is Kang. I do have a theory that it might be Apocalypse too, since Apocalypse likes to go through different timelines and actually conquer it. He was also a variant. He has different variants that some of them wanted to control and do more harm. The other just wanted to share knowledge. And so to stop all of it, he created this one timeline, and basically everybody's, in their timeline stuck and not really carrying over from what I understand. Obviously, they're leaving a lot of things open for us to kind of theorized about, and obviously more answers will come because the way it all ends is a cliffhanger ending. So what we learn is that if you either kill him and you open all these different branches, or Loki and Sylvie have the option of taking over the duties and let the TVA run as it is now, bringing variants and, giving them jobs or pruning them in that void, and that's that. And, the actual timeline that's going, and the sacred timeline is what they call it, keeps going the way it is. And the whole episode was just filled with dialogue. There was not a lot of action. There's one action sequence between Sylvie and Loki because Loki wants to go ahead with this plan. Sylvie doesn't, because Loki cannot be trusted and Sylvie doesn't trust anyone. And that unique thing, they finally admit to their love of each other, which is weird itself because it's Loki loving Loki. But at the same time, also, it opens up this possibility going forward because Sylvie ends up deciding that no, she wants to kill He Who Remains, and she throws off Loki at the end. I'm going back and forth, but Loki, towards the end of the episode, she pushes him to a timeline which he doesn't realize is actually a different timeline than he was in. It's a branch timeline where Mobius and the TVA people actually do not even know who he is, and now he's stuck there. And that is actually the timeline where He Who Remains, the statue, is actually at the TVA. So from what it looks like, it's one of the timelines where that guy is actually in control. There's no machine timekeepers. It's actually him, the boss man there. And now we have to see how he gets out of there. But now that they announced that Loki is going to be in Multiverse of Madness, which is Doctor Strange 2, it's going to be crazy. So the whole episode was literally this conversation, and it was a conversation that explained what time is and how time works in the MCU, and what's been going on, and how these two again fit into it, and what they can do to really help. So Sylvie decides, as I said, to kill the thing, and it opens up the multiverse of madness. The amount of timelines that have opened up at the end, and it makes sense now going into Doctor Strange 2, as I said, why it's named Multiverse of Madness, because of the amount of timelines that they opened up. Remember in the trailer where there was a hint of all these different timelines opening up? That was a edited version of what the amount of timelines they have opened up. It's crazy. And now it also makes sense, at least for me, why there's no trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home and all the three different Spider-Man coming together. It's because they didn't want to spoil anything for the end of this episode. It was gigantic in a very different way. Even though there's not an action scene or so, it just hit home. It hit home because there is an emotional thing between the two Lokis, Loki and Sylvie, and they somewhat came to a conclusion, but the conclusion that we expected, we did not get it. It was something different, and that's the surprising aspect of it, that everything that happens in this episode, you don't expect it. You expect to see Kang in its actual form, but the way they introduce him was amazing. He's tired out of it. He doesn't want to do this anymore. As he says, he's getting old in his own way. He's getting old, and he doesn't want, like, he wants somebody else to take over. So it was very interesting that the surprises came in a very different way than you expected. And I think that was the intriguing part of this episode, is the way everything it was explained, the way the timeline was explained, the way also it ends, where Loki is gone somewhere in a different timeline. Mobius is actually not really in control, but kind of in control in the sacred timeline TVA, and Sylvie is now just sitting there waiting and, seeing out this window all these different branches, going crazy. And she's just sitting there and waiting for stuff to really go down south. Also, the judge finally realizes that she also is after the free will. So that ending was kind of quick. So I do wish that there was a bit more emotionality there between Mobius and the judge. The judge basically is evil, but also is not evil. From the previous episode, they said that, as they showed us, that she really wanted to get to that person, but now she's in our own mission. So that was a bit quick. There was not enough explanation there. I understand that, again, it was a cliffhanger ending, a big cliffhanger ending that actually changes the whole MCU. This was Loki. This was the end of Loki. It was that big because it literally changes how things are going to happen from here. And it's crazy in a sense to think like what they're going to do to fix all of this, since the person who was in charge of it is now gone, and the only thing they could have done to control it were the two Lokis staying together and run the TVA. But now there's all these branches are going out of control, and they've touched the threshold, the red line. How they're gonna fix all of it? And that's where obviously Doctor Strange and Wanda and Loki, they come in. But it just, the thought of it, is the grandeur of it is exciting. And can't wait for Doctor Strange 2 and the next Spider-Man. So all in all, this was a great episode. I mean, this literally was it. What I'm telling you, this was it. But the reason it was interesting is the dialogue itself. The reason it was interesting, that the reveals, the emotional, obviously, thing between Sylvie and Loki was interesting. The dialogue was interesting. The reveal, the whole timeline, the explanation was interesting. It was a bit confusing, and you can go into more, obviously, but I think that's the thing about this, that it gave a great ending while also giving a great cliffhanger. It was not just the cliffhanger that you were like, oh, that's great, but nothing happened in the episode. But the whole conversation was so interesting, and that was the whole episode. And it kept you hooked to it. It never let you go. It never let you look away. You have to watch this episode. You can't just have the episode running in the back. You have to listen. You have to listen to the dialogue. You have to listen to the characters. You have to look at the characters. So for that reason, I do give this one a 9 out of 10. This was a perfect ending for the show. And it was, again, because of the dialogue, it was great, but it was also great because it did not go down the same road that episode 3 did with its like dialogue-driven episode, but not interesting. It was able to keep you hooked, and I can't wait for whatever's gonna happen in the MCU after this, because oh boy, Multiverse of Madness is here. So what did you all think about this? leave a comment below, let me know. And other than that, I want to say thank you for watching. Thanks for all the support. If you like this review, there are a whole lot others this kind of reviews on the channel. Please go have a watch. So yeah, other than that, take it easy, take care, and I will catch you all soon. Until then, ta-ta, aka out.